Tom Verducci, senior baseball writer, Sports Illustrated, and he joins us on the show. You made a blanket statement you're not voting for anybody who has been associated with performance-enhancing drugs. It's kind of tough to define that, though, isn't it, Tom, with rumor, innuendo, and actual fact? So how do you do this?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I thought you made a good point by saying it is a judgment call. There's, almost 600 opinions, if you will. That's how many ballots are out there. So everyone has their own opinion or judgment. And for me, it's not just, hey, I heard something, or, hey, that guy looked like he got really big. It has to rise to a level more than that. There has to be, proof, knowledge, direct knowledge, something that someone close to that person told me that he knew for sure. So I try to, go above speculation, suspicion. Everybody deserves the benefit of the doubt. But then you start considering what evidence is out there. And you do it on a case-by-case basis. I can't tell you there's only one specific criteria.
Who'd you vote for?
Generally, I'm pretty tough. I should tell you that. I don't vote for a lot of guys, but I think this is the most I voted for. I voted for 6 different players this year. I had Biggio and Bagwell, Raines and McGriff, and Schilling and Jack Morris.
So not Piazza?
No.
Why?
No.
Why not?
No Piazza, no Bonds, no Clemens, no Larry Walker, no Edgar Martinez. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there who are, quote-unquote, borderline Hall of Famers and actually may get in someday. But as I said, I tend to be tough, and in some cases, I need more time on guys, to be quite honest with you.
But why Piazza?
Piazza's one of those guys. I'll give you an example with Bagwell. I wasn't comfortable with him his first year on the ballot. He came out and basically endorsed steroid use. And there were some other things that I heard about him. He said he had no problem with, a fringe player using steroids, had no problem with a guy like Bonds using steroids, didn't think that what Andy Pettitte did was performance enhancing. I had a real problem with that. It spoke to me about a mentality and a culture that helped get us into this morass in the first place. And so I basically said, I need to sit on this for a while. And I did, and I came back and I said, you know what? I'm going to give him still the benefit of the doubt in terms of Jeff Bagwell, and I have voted for him since. And Piazza's probably in that same category for me.
Tom Verducci of Sports Illustrated joining us. Why not Bonds, Clemens?
Well, there's a whole lot of evidence out there. To me, I believe that they were steroid users and serial steroid users, if you will. And I'm one of these people. I think it really changed the game from a competitive aspect. I don't look at personal integrity when it comes to this clause about character. It's more about competitive integrity. And the game was compromised because of the guys who used steroids. And it was done by guys, it was compromised by guys, whether they were rookies, fringe players, or already superstar athletes. And there's no way that for me, when I'm endorsing someone for the highest honor possible, I think in all of sports, but certainly in baseball, there's no way I'm going to endorse the decision to use steroids, because everybody who used steroids knew that they were creating an uneven playing field. And to this day is still an unspoken thing that guys did. I mean, you can't get people to talk about steroids because they know it was the wrong thing to do.
Who gets in today?
Great question. Dan, we have not had a shutout since 1996. And when you look at the names on the ballot, your first response is, wow. I mean, you got some of the greats of the game on this ballot, not just one or two guys either. And it may turn out to be a year in which nobody gets in. I think Craig Biggio has the best chance of getting in. If he does, it will be by the skin of his teeth, basically. It'd be a really close call one way or the other. 75% is what you need. I think he'll be right around there. That may be it. I mean, you see Jack Morris will get close, Bagwell will get close, but I think it's either a shutout or it's Biggio.
I'm probably a little more lenient. I look at the 2013 candidates. Let's just go down the list. You give me a yes or no if they eventually get into the Hall of Fame. Jeff Bagwell.
Yeah, I think he probably gets in, say, 2 or 3 years.
Craig Biggio?
Yeah, this year or next year, I'll say yes.
Barry Bonds?
I don't see it in the next 5 years. 10 years would be probably yes, and I put Clemens in the same category.
Edgar Martinez?
No, not getting in.
Don Mattingly?
Not getting in. He's running out of time, by the way.
Fred McGriff?
Unfortunately, not getting in. I've never voted for someone who didn't eventually get in. I think he's going to be the first in that regard.
And you know what? If he ended up with 500 home runs instead of 493, people would probably look at him differently.
Isn't that strange?
Yeah, and I mean, I think Fred McGriff's one of the more underrated players in the history of the game.
Totally agree. And don't forget, Dan, if not for the strike in 94 and 95, he does have 500 home runs.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, he's got better numbers than Eddie Murray. Better on base, better slugging, more 30 home run, more 100 RBI seasons. He's not close to getting in, which really, really surprises me.
Mark McGwire.
Not getting in.
Jack Morris.
I would have said yes going into this year, but from what I'm hearing, he's only got this year and next year, by the way. I'm afraid he might not get in. I think he should.
Dale Murphy.
Last chance for Dale. Great guy. Hall of Fame of good guys, but not the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Palmeiro.
Never getting in.
Never.
No, I mean, listen, if someday this thing, and they will, a lot of these guys will be kicked to whatever version of the Veterans Committee is around 10, 15, 20 years from now. That will be interesting when you have executives and some media members, and basically former players and executives voting on these guys. And maybe that's the way it should be. Maybe it should fall to that kind of committee rather than the baseball writers.
Piazza.
It'd be interesting how they weigh it that far down the road.
Piazza.
I think he's getting in probably 3 or 4 years.
Tim Raines.
Yes, probably 5, 6 years. Don't forget, we have a big class coming up next year, which may keep some of these guys out next year.
Schilling.
Schilling is a yes. I think he's done Drysdale, and Drysdale took, I think, 8 or 9 ballots to get in.
Lee Smith.
Don't think he's getting in. He's started about 50%, just has never gained any traction.
Sosa.
Never getting in.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of good players. Hey, Joe Jackson, Pete Rose, not in. That's a whole nother discussion.
Do you think Pete Rose ever gets in?
Ever's a really long time, but Dan, I can tell you, I don't see any momentum to get him in right now. Things would really have to take a 180-degree turn.
What if he was on the ballot? What kind of votes, percentage-wise, would he get?
You know, that's a great question, and I wish that he were. Don't forget, they changed the rule to keep him off the ballot. The rule was if you were on the ineligible list, you couldn't go on the ballot. In fact, Joe Jackson did get on the ballot, and for people who say character doesn't matter, Joe Jackson only got 2 votes out of more than 2,000 when he went on the ballot in 1936. But they circumvented that. They changed the rule, kept Rose off the ballot. The writers never had a chance to vote on him. I don't know. Listen, we're finding out it's really tough to get 75%. My guess it would be a very close vote on Pete Rose if he did get on the ballot. But I wish that he had, and we would get an answer to that question. Let him go through the process. He never went through the process.
Alan Trammell.
I don't see him getting in, no. One of those classic borderline guys. Hasn't been gaining votes.
Larry Walker.
Don't see him getting in either.
And Bernie Williams.
No, great guy again, but don't see him getting in.
Before I let you go, how about this idea? First ballot Hall of Fame. It's different. It means something. It should stand out. Why don't we have the voting percentages around 80% or a little higher than that for the first balloters to go in as a first ballot Hall of Fame? Make it something special. And then that way you can differentiate between those who get in as a first ballot Hall of Famer. You truly are exceptional, and you'll be recognized as being exceptional.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I mean, I do think it is something special. It's unofficial at this point, though. There's only been 44 guys. I mean, there's more than 200 in the Hall of Fame. There's only been 44 who got in on the very first vote. In fact, there's more guys in the Hall of Fame who needed 3 ballots or more than not. So it's generally a process that most guys have to go through, and that inner circle Hall of Famer is the first ballot guy. And I guess you're asking to officially recognize that those guys are different. They're literally a cut above than the rest of the field. I hadn't thought about that. The Hall of Fame makes no notice of that, by the way. There's nothing on the plaque. There's nothing in the literature about it. But I think in the hearts and minds of voters, at least, there is something special to that.
But you could go back and look at those who accumulated 80% or 85% of the vote. So you could say, you could do your unofficial, these guys all got in, they got this amount of votes, and just to see how many of those guys, qualified with that vote total there.
Yeah, and I know a lot of fans are kind of curious, hey, how does a guy, say like a Burt Blyleven, start out in the 17% threshold and wind up 14 years later, getting 75% to get in the Hall of Fame. And it's hard to explain that, I'll be honest with you, but it is like a political campaign where there's ebbs and flows, and especially if you have people out there advocating for you and basically running a campaign, guys pick up votes. I'm not kidding you. It's helped a lot of guys get in the Hall of Fame. And for a guy like McGriff, I haven't heard anybody really out there banging the drums for Freddie McGriff. He doesn't have someone waving the flag for him, and that's why he hasn't picked up votes. It's crazy, but it's true.
Good stuff last night. Enjoyed the roundtable, Tom. Thanks for joining us.
You got it, Dan. Thank you.
Tom Verducci, Sports Illustrated, senior baseball writer.